Alright, now, there's that duck jerky. Come out awfully good, but not out of that recipe I took from the book. That was a little bit too much soy sauce, and I added the recommended amount of black pepper and the recommended amount of red pepper flakes. But the spice is okay if you like spicy. It's got a good spice flavor. But the soy sauce was a little bit too much for me. So if you buy that book and you want to make jerky, you might want to cut down a little bit. I don't know. It's going to be your call, your choice, right? But this right here is one that I went by memory on my jerky recipe in my head. And that's good. That's really good. So I'll make sure I write down that recipe for you folks, okay? Now, the other day I mentioned that I found some mullein, right? Some of you are familiar with what mullein is. And this time of year in Maine, there's only the remnants of last year's plant. But I'll take a picture of it and I will put it in this video. But in late summer through the fall, you want mullein leaves about this big here for tea, okay? Leaves for tea. The small leaves for tea. These are ones that I gathered last fall and dried. In case I got the C19, right? There's a little piece. Of course, these are dried, remember? And this is how I preserve them. Just gather them up. And good old zip ties, right? Good old zip ties. And I just hang it up out of the sun. Okay, it's got to be kept in the shade, preferably a cool, dry, dark place, alright? But this here, that's as long as I want the mullein leaves for tea. That's plenty long enough, alright? That one right there would be even better. And the strength of the mullein tea is going to depend on what you like for tea. It's going to be a mild tea, alright? It's not going to be like black tea, okay? It's going to be mild. And it's got a nice citrus, gingery taste to it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, folks. So, let me put this down. Now, in my opinion only, the only part of the mullein plant are the leaves, okay? And they're like a basil leaf, and the bigger ones can get up to 2 feet long, folks. They're huge. Now, they're very fuzzy. They've got little hairs on them, and you probably can't see them. See, these are so brittle. I'll just take one off. I don't know if you can see how fuzzy those are. Fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzy. Now, these are good for tea. It's an expectorant, folks, okay? It's an expectorant. Do your own research. Do your own research on it. Now, they're really fuzzy, and you can also use these. The Indians here in Maine used to take the bigger leaves and put them in their moccasins. One, that'll give a little bit of insulation, and it'll give a little bit of cushion, okay? So when they walked on their moccasins, it wouldn't be so hard. They're walking on rocks. It would kind of help their feet a little bit. They also use this as toilet paper, okay? Of course, when they're green, when they're not dried out. When they're dried out, they're good for tea. But when they're fresh, they're really, really soft. But I want to remind you that there's hair on the front side and the back side, okay? If you're going to use this to wipe your behind with, you want to go in the direction the hairs are flowing, okay? You don't want to go the other direction, because those little fine hairs is a skin irritant, folks. Okay? Now, if you use these small leaves, smaller than this, I'm talking 2 or 3 inch leaves, if you want to put them in your salad, you can do that. But just like eating hot, spicy food, the other end is going to get irritated, okay? Because of those little tiny, tiny fine hairs. Alright? So, be mindful. Do your research. Please do your research. Do not count on anything that I say. Anything that I say medicinally or that's edible out in the wild. I'm going to really strongly enforce you do your own research. I'm not going to be responsible if you misidentify something or misuse it. Okay? Now, let me go put this down. Now, when the leaves get 2 feet wide, 2 feet long, and they're about this wide, okay, you can take those and you can dry them and then crush them up, and then you can actually use them as an inhalant. Okay, you can light it on fire and you can inhale the smoke. That's also going to be good for your any mucus in there. It's an expectorant. Okay. You can also roll it into like a homemade cigarette. All right. Now I'll admit I tried that once. This was probably 40 years ago. Okay, you know my age, so I was a little bit naughty. I don't know if you have them out west. I don't know if you have them in the mountains. I don't know if you have them in the deserts. I do not know this about mullein. I know here it grows in very poor, gravelly soil, full sun. And the mullein plant can get, I've seen it over 12 feet tall, folks. 12 feet tall, so it can be a big plant, but typically it's about 6 to 8 feet tall, which is tall enough. It's pretty easy to identify. So, I guess the only other thing on the mullein that I will even speak about as being edible or medicinal are they have a really tall spike at the top of the plant, and sometimes they branch out a little bit. The whole length of that spike will have yellow flowers, and that could be used as teas or whatnot. Again, do your research. I do not bother with the yellow flowers, and I'll tell you why. Even though there's throughout the season, that tall spike is what I call, has numerous yellow flowers. They do not all come out at once. There might be 4 or 5 here, and then 4 or 5 more will open up. So I don't even bother with that, because it's going to take more of my time to go around collecting those little tiny yellow flowers, and I don't have time to do that every single day. So that's about mullein. I'll make sure I go down, take a picture of what it looks like right now in its dead stage, because the stalk will continue to stand even through the harsh winters here. Okay, so that's that. The mullein and the jerky. Remember, muscovy breast meat is like 98-99% fat free, okay? And you saw how beautiful, and I'll put another picture with this video, how beautiful and how red that muscovy breast is. And these here were about 8 and 10 months old, and their breasts were probably, because these were smaller ducks, and these were kind of runtish. Okay, they weren't the typical that I like to breed in here. That's why they had to go before breeding season, because I didn't want that small gene to. I breed big with big, folks. Okay, if I'm going to feed an animal, I want to get the most meat that I can. So big with big. But their breasts on a 8 to 10 month old muscovy, these were about 8.5 inches long, and about 3 inches wide, and just about 2.5 inches thick. So those are really nice steaks, and you have two, right? You have two, one on each side of that breastbone on a dock. So, and with the leg bones and carcass, I just soup them. I just soup them. If I'm going to can them, I'll separate the legs and throw them in a jar, bone and all, and raw pack them. So, I hope you don't mind me mentioning your name. And if you do, let me know, and I will never do it again. Okay, I want to respect your privacy. A Hockey Mom 29 reminded me that I have not shared the canned coleslaw recipe where I put the oak leaf on the top of the jar and on the bottom of the jar. I cannot gain access to that recipe right now, but I have reached out to somebody that I gave the recipe to, and they guarantee me by the end of the weekend that they will have that recipe for me, okay? So when I get the recipe, I'm going to pass it along with you folks. And all that is cabbage, carrots, onion, green pepper, and a brine. And, go out and find an oak leaf, okay? And if you have an oak leaf that's a big oak leaf that's 10 inches long, just cut it into quarters and stick a quarter on the top and stick a quarter on the bottom. Or you can put more in there if you want. It's up to you. It's up to you. So that recipe will be coming, folks. Now I want to remind you when I post that recipe, when you put that oak leaf on the top of your coleslaw before you put the lid on, make sure you tuck that down around the jar somehow. So in the water bathing process, because it's water bath, in the water bathing process, that leaf doesn't get up and get underneath that lid, okay? We want it to seal. So that is that. It's a beautiful day, folks. Beautiful day. The jerky came out wonderful. It's really too hot for a fire, but it's just a smudge to dry the jerky out, and I still have some drying. My windows are open, my doors are open. It's too hot even for a smudge in there. But it's got to be close to like 58 degrees out, maybe even 60 degrees out, folks. And the sun is setting to the west, and I got the bog behind me. That bog does have low bush cranberries, folks. So hopefully we can get out there this fall after the first light frost or two and collect some low bush cranberries. Now, the last 2 years I was unable to pick any because we have a little beaver issue. Okay, that beaver likes to dam up the culvert down there, and it makes the water higher, and with the fall rains, it's, when it's late in the fall, October, I'm not a big fan of wading out up to my knees and getting cranberries. So when I can gather them, I gather as many as I can, and I dry them, and then eat until I can access them again 2 or 3 years down the road. So that is that. Fireside chat tonight, I'm not sure. I've been up since 12:30 this morning, right? So we're going to see how that plays out. I didn't have any intention of falling asleep yesterday. At about 7:30, I sat in the recliner. So I'm going on just a few hours sleep, and it's been an awfully busy day. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. We'll see about fireside chat. No promises, though, okay?